call the meeting to order. This is the January 24, 2017 meeting of the Fairfield Town Planning and Zoning Commission. First item on our agenda are the bills and communications and meeting minutes from January 10, 2017. I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Alessi.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Kennelly. Anybody have any discussion? I reviewed, didn't see any changes necessary.
Nope.
Anyone else?
No.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are adopted unanimously. Next item is 305 Black Rock Turnpike, request of Joseph Grosso on behalf of Bishop Design and Development for 100% release of a $46,400 bond pertaining to special permit improvements in the design commercial district.
Mr. Chairman, this is the Sims conversion to OSG, recently completed and occupied. It was approved by this commission in July of 2013. You do have an email in your packet from the engineering department recommending 100% bond release.
Excellent, thank you.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Alessi and seconded by Commissioner Kennelly. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Bond is released unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to add to our agenda supplemental 1236 Stratford Road, the discussion of pending litigation.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. Motion to add the supplemental agenda item by Commissioner Alessi and seconded by Commissioner McAleese.
I'd like to just make a motion
Hold
to...
on, we got to vote on that.
Oh, I thought we did.
No. So in order for us to take this item up, we first have to add the item by motion for a majority, supermajority of the
Two-thirds.
members present.
Yep.
Two-thirds of the members present, right? So the first motion is to add it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, so the agenda item is added. And that is 1236 Stratfield Road, discussion of pending litigation.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town attorney to settle litigation as he's been advised.
As he advised us.
As he advised us.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Alessi,
I'll second the motion.
second by Commissioner McAleese. Okay. So, vote in favor of this motion authorizes our town attorney to resolve that litigation as he has advised us. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Next item are new applications to recommend a public hearing. First is 85 Mill Plain Road, compliance application of Fischel Properties to establish a food service use, coffee shop, with request for reduced parking pursuant to Section 21.13 in the Design Industrial District.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Section 21.13 authorizes the commission to make findings based on traffic counts to reduce parking. You've done so on numerous occasions for the Sportsplex complex, but it does require a public hearing to do that, so we would schedule that for a future meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve this application public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly,
Second.
second by Commissioner Alessi. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Move to public hearing unanimously. Next is 226 Main Street, special exception application of Eagle Hill Southport School, Inc., to expand a school use to an existing building in an R3 zone.
This particular building is in downtown Southport. It's an old People's Bank building. It's a brownstone building on Main Street. And adjacent to it is the old Pequot School that is now, since 1984, I believe, has been the Eagle Hill Southport School. Eagle Hill is looking to acquire that adjacent building. People's Bank has closed and vacated that building. They're looking to fold it into their campus for their use as part of that school. It requires a special exception.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Francis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Alessi. Public hearing is required, so no real discussion necessary. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Move to public hearing unanimously. Next item is old business, 50 Chatham Road, request of 50 Development LLC for 100% release of an $84,440 bond pertaining to subdivision improvements in an R2 zone.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. On September 10, 2013, this three-lot re-subdivision was approved by the Town Plan Zoning Commission. The bonded improvements included site drainage, catch basins, bituminous curb and ramps, street trees, monuments, and site stabilization. This site has been inspected, and we received an email from the engineering department confirming that all bonded work has been completed to their satisfaction, and they recommend 100% release of the bond, and I believe you received copies of that email.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion? Motion to approve by Commissioner Francis.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Barrett. So I think that our file is sufficiently documented. Does anyone have any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The bond is released unanimously. Next item is compliances, 500 Kings Highway, compliance application of Robert Blanchette on behalf of Goodwill Industries for site plan modifications to establish a drive-up donation window.
Okay, this is a one-story retail building that was built in 1999 on Kings Highway. Town Fair Tire is an anchor tenant there to kind of ballpark you. The retail space at the far right end of the building, when this project was first occupied, was a video store, Hollywood Video. Then for the last 5 years or so, it's been occupied by Marinello School of Beauty. They're out. Goodwill is looking to do a retail store there. And what's before you is they are looking to eliminate a row of parking adjacent to the building to create a drop-off donation aisle. Pretty similar to the setup they have on the Post Road in Westport, if you've ever been to the Goodwill store just down the road from Super Stop and Shop in Westport, where you drive underneath the canopy. There's a little hose there, kind of like a gas station, that rings a bell inside. Someone comes out, helps you unload your car, and off you go. And then the main body of the store is basically retail, selling the stuff. So it's a site plan revision to eliminate 9 parking spaces and create an overhang canopy that's shown as the dashed line. There are 192 spaces required when this building was built, and they will have 192 after they do their modification. There's a surplus now. They're relocating one space and proposing just a canopy overhang so folks that are dropping off donations are out of the way.
Thank you. Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Francis. Second by Commissioner Noonan. Commissioner Francis, Noonan, anybody have, I have some questions, but
Yep.
Whoever. Commissioner Francis?
Yeah, my only question was about the parking, and that's been answered. So I think that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Noonan? So, I'm looking at the turnaround, when somebody drives underneath this thing. I go to the one in Westport, and when you pull through that,
Yep.
you can't turn around to exit the parking lot without, if there are cars parked in the spots there, you absolutely have to make a K-turn.
Yep.
And even when there are not, it's incredibly tight. And I was just looking at the flow of the traffic here under the proposed drop-off, and I'm wondering how in the world a car is going to make that move.
Well, you may not, depending on your vehicle, you may be able to make a turn to the right, but the easier maneuvers, you can make a left and go all the way around the back and come out the other curb cut around behind Town Fair Tire. So you can make a left and go all the way around the rear, or depending on your vehicle, you may have to you may not be able to make a one maneuver turn, depending on your turning radius, but you can certainly make a left. So you may need to make a K, if you're turning to the right, you may need to stop. There's no driveway out to Castle Avenue.
Right,
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
One thing, I'm a little concerned, I wonder about the, any interaction with Town Fair Tire, because in the back there, because I do think the left-hand turn makes sense, you know, it just, in terms of if they have signage. So is there, I didn't look closely enough at the plan, and I apologize, but is part of the plan inclusion, I should have read the letter maybe more closely, is there any kind of a provision for signage so that they see, that folks can come here and see that they're going to be able to move around the building? Because I know, having visited there to use Town Fair and things like that, that I wouldn't immediately realize I could go behind, because Town Fair has an operation where the guys go in and out in the back there, so I might be,
Yeah.
you know, I just want to make sure that I think you're right, that left hand makes sense, you come out, you get your curb cut, you go the other way. But if it isn't in the plan or the application, it seems like they ought to have certainly clear signage that folks can do this, because I could see people being dissuaded by seeing cars coming in and out of the garages in the back of Town Fair as they're working on tires and stuff. So is that something we should consider?
Well,
I don't know.
if you're suggesting that there
Maybe
be
a sign-
directional signage encouraging
clear.
people to make a left-hand turn
Or
to
just
to
to
exit.
clear they can
Yeah.
and stuff like that should be...
We
added.
certainly could, if you
Yeah,
think
I,
it's appropriate.
you know, just somehow, you know, arrows on the ground or signs.
Yeah, because it may not be intuitive if you're
Right.
a first-time visitor that you can make the left to exit.
Yeah, that's all I mean, the reason being is if you get to that edge, you may look around to the left and see things coming out of the garage and all, and you know, that would be my concern.
Well, there's a lot of stuff back there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the back of the building, where there are 18, I mean, I've been back there, there are 18-wheelers stacked up for deliveries, and then Town Fair has its things going on, and if you look all the way on the left to go around that building, that's pretty tight. I mean, you can navigate the lane and come down and around. It's not at all clear that is, you know, where you should be going.
The other alternative is perhaps to shorten up the island that they're proposing a little, to create a larger radius to be able to make a right-hand turn.
I think as a, no, sorry.
Yeah, I wondered if you could, do they just have 192 spaces in that lot? Because if they're extra, maybe they could block off a few, so it would be easier to do a U-turn on the far
Well,
right.
it's not a matter of, I don't think there are any existing striped spaces that are going to be in your way. It's just you're going to run out of real estate before you have to stop and back up and maneuver. But if they cut that curb a few feet shorter, or you know, cut the curb right where the post is for the, you know, that you gain about 3 or 4 feet of
Those
turning
rectangles
radius.
symbolize, are the posts?
Yes.
The rectangles inside the oval? Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request for revision. But is that something we can?
Sure.
Can we make that as a condition? of approval for
You
compliance?
can have them modify the site so it's easier to make a right-hand turn.
Okay. Well, then I'd suggest we do that then. I agree, listening to the chairman, I agree too, that even though it may be an easier turn to do left, to go left, the area back there is not one you really want to, there's obstructions, and there's just more, there's issues. So yeah, I think if they would, that they need, in order to win a compliance, they would have to at least shorten this island by, like you said, you know,
Well,
somewhat
however
closer
much,
to Poland.
in order, it should be shortened enough to provide for a car, a regular car,
To be able to make an
to be able
appropriate
to
turn.
pull in, drop off stuff,
Yeah.
and turn right around to
Yeah.
exit around, you know, in the
Yeah.
lane. I mean, that's my feeling.
Absolutely.
I go to Goodwill in Westport a lot. It is incredibly frustrating, and cars are constantly, you know, yelling at each other.
Okay. So we can have them modify the geometry so you can make a right-hand turn in a smooth movement there.
Yep. So do we do that then as a condition of approval? Because I'm okay with, I don't know how other people feel about it, but I'm okay with conditioning approval on a revised site plan that meets those conditions.
It's a compliance application
Yeah.
anyway, so it's not like...
Yeah, we can just have.
I don't think we need like a
consult with our
public
engineering
hearing or
department.
something. No, I agree.
All right. So I forgot who made the motions. Commissioner Francis made the motion. Do you agree to amend the motion that you made?
I do.
To do with the condition? Yes. And it was seconded by Noonan? I do. All right. So Commissioner Francis and Noonan have both agreed to modify the motion to add the condition we just discussed. Any further discussion?
No?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. The compliance is approved with conditions unanimously. All right, next item is 227 Turney Road, coastal site plan application of Peter Cummings on behalf of Jeff and Mindy Siegel pertaining to the construction of a single-family dwelling in the A-zone.
Okay, this property is on Turney Road. It's the last property on the left if you're heading down Turney Road, headed towards the town's marina. This meets all the A-zone standards for construction. It's before you because the house, single-family homes are typically exempt from coastal site plan review unless it's within 100 feet of tidal wetlands or the beach resource, which this is, within 100 feet of tidal wetlands. The plan has been referred to the DEEP, Department of Long Island Sound Programs. We have an email back from their staff, environmental analysts, opining that there are no policy inconsistencies here. You have our staff report that comes to the same conclusion, that is consistent with the coastal area management policies, and therefore we are recommending its approval.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Kennelly,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Barrett.
Because both our staff and the appropriate regulatory agencies have signed off on this, I think we should go ahead and approve.
Very good. Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I agree. It's a coastal site plan application. It's there for a specific reason. It's before us for a specific reason, as explained by Mr. Wet, and I think we should approve it based upon the positive referrals that we've received.
I reviewed the CAM report, and I did not find any issues at all. Looked at the other materials, and see no basis for denial.
Does the pool meet the setback requirements?
It does.
It does?
Mhm.
It's 30 feet from water's edge, right? Wasn't it 30 feet?
I'm sorry?
30 feet from water's edge to the property,
30 feet from the rear property line.
rear of the property?
The rear property line goes, there's a marsh. The fair part of this property is larger than the upland land area. It's about almost 3/4 of an acre, but the upland acre is only about 9,000 feet. So there's more room there than it looks.
Oh, I see. This is in that house. It's in the
Okay. Anyone else? Any other discussion, comments, questions? Motion is to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The compliance is approved unanimously. Okay. Next is public hearing. 1073 North Benson Road, special exception application of Fairfield University pertaining to the construction of a new residence hall in the AA zone. And Mr. Fallon, you want me to call the second item also? Separate? Very good.
Really?
I will.
Is it? This is the parking.
The first one is the residential. New residence.
Should I begin, Mr. Chairman? Are we all set on
Yes.
the first one? Thank you. Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, I'm John Fallon. I'm an attorney here in Fairfield. I'm pleased to be representing Fairfield University with regard to this application. We'll have a few boards that we're presenting tonight, and what Mr. Krasinski from Fairfield University has just handed to you are just reduced copies of the same boards we'll be putting on the easel, just so you'll have them there for your convenience. This application is for the construction of a new dormitory, as shown on the plans that we've submitted. It's to be located, to give you a sense of context, between Regis Hall and Gonzaga Hall in our residential quadrangle. The proposed facility will be for 205 beds. It's in the center of the campus. It's grouped with the other dormitories, as I referred to before, as the quad. This location of this dorm will finish the development of the quad by occupying the southwest corner of the area between Regis and Gonzaga Hall. The plans that we've submitted, as you can see, are in keeping with the size and style of the adjacent buildings, so that they're going to blend very seamlessly with those buildings, as much did the dorm that is now constructed and that you approved a few years ago in that same general area. This facility, this new dormitory, will be the home to sophomores. They are not allowed driving privileges. Sophomores cannot have cars at Fairfield University. And so the new building will not increase the need for any additional parking, nor will it have any impact in terms of parking generally associated with the university. What it'll allow us to do will allow us to move sophomores out of dorms that really they've been in, that are planned for and really ideally suited for our freshmen. And this will allow the freshman class to accommodate and be accommodated in double rooms, converted from triple rooms where they've been due to size of the enrolling freshman classes in the past. We're excited about this facility. It is a state-of-the-art living and learning facility with an environmental classroom on each of the first, each floor. Its substantially sized lounges lend themselves to student gatherings and collaborative academic projects. We'll also provide, as we do as a custom, 2 resident director apartments that will allow for staff to live and guide these second-year students. As with this project and the proposal you'll hear about in a minute or momentarily, the garage, we had a meeting with our neighbors on September 27th. It is always, as you know, and has been for some time, the policy of the university to reach out to our neighbors with regard to proposals that we intend and hope to bring to you. And in this case, we did have that reach out to all of our neighbors on September 27th, and basically shared with them a good deal of what we're sharing with you tonight. A code enforcement review was held with regard to the proposed dormitory. That was held on August 16th, 2016. All the comments of the code have been complied with. You'll recall that in the code minutes, and this came up, I think, when we did the Barone Campus Center, there was a comment made by the fire marshal about concern with regard to the fire, the fencing, with regard to that was proposed and shown. I have an email exchange here. That apparently was a misunderstanding in our part, and not the fire marshal. But you have here a confirmatory email from the fire marshal with understanding the plan, as Mr. Krasinski's email, which is also attached to the conclusion. That issue or question we had about the location of the fencing for fire purposes has been addressed. We also received the unanimous approval of the Inland Wetlands Agency with regard to an inland wetlands permit that was required for this particular proposal that's before you. And you did receive, referencing both this proposal and the one you'll hear in a moment with regard to the parking structure, I believe Mr. Wendt has made part of your record an email that he received on January 20th from Laura Pooley, and that in fact confirms that all comments with regard to both the dormitory and the parking structure that were made by Ms. Pooley at the code meeting in August have been addressed. Our proposal, yes?
Can you put in context the email you've just put in front of us now?
Yes.
Because several of us, I think, are scrambling now to find the portion of the code minutes that you were referring to and didn't.
Yes.
Now you're moving on to another subject, and I just don't want this to be lost. Page 7. So for all of us, the code enforcement minutes were on several projects at the same time. And so the first section is for the dining room, which we already heard. The second section is on the, whatever it was, parking garage.
Right.
And the third one is on the dormitory. The dormitory is what we're hearing now. It starts on page 7.
Right, and if you go to page 7, under fire comments for the dorm, there's a comment number 2, construction fence will not work.
Right.
The reason we were sensitive to this is may remember that when we brought the Barone campus in a month ago, we were all reading the, and you said, well, Mr. Fallon, what about this construction fence?
Because I made the same mistake I just clarified for everybody
No,
else.
and I looked at you and I said, what construction fence? But you were right, but, so that we addressed that, and that's what this string of emails is. You'll see an email from Mr. Krasinski explaining what the plans show, and a reply back from the fire marshal that he's satisfied with.
So now,
plans.
he does say, there's been erected the construction fencing in a location to maintain exiting from both Regis and Gonzaga.
Correct.
Okay. So, I don't know if you're gonna deal with any of the other fire comments.
Sure.
So, the number 6 on the next page, it says, in the future, no 3 and 4 bedrooms for egress. What does that mean?
Can I ask, could you address that? Or can I wait and have our architect address that?
Sure, so long as somebody
You familiar
talks
with the
about it.
comment? I think the way we would address that is we are aware of that, and we propose no 3 or 4 bedroom units.
Okay, these are all, two for 2.
2,
Doubles,
correct.
doubles.
Correct, doubles.
All right, and, then the U-turn in the front, I see the turnaround.
Right.
It accommodates, number 3,
Correct,
and, the site plan designates fire lanes, and that's item number 4.
correct.
Okay,
So we have done all that with the fire marshal.
very good. Thank you.
I appreciate it. So we'll try to keep our presentation focused, obviously, and let me tell you what that presentation involves. First of all, as I said, we have received full approval from the engineering department. As Ms. Pooley's email indicates, we also did receive an inland wetlands permit, but Mr. Walter Jopes of the Huntington Company is here, and should you have any questions about site engineering, he'd be pleased to answer them. We also submitted as part of the record, particularly with regard to it's really with regard to the parking structure, but Mr. Galante of Frederick P. Clark is here for both of those hearings. What we want to present to you tonight is the following. Emily Wright of SLAM, who was our consultant on this and is our landscape architect, will overview with you the site location, including our landscaping plan that is proposed as shown on the plans that have been filed and that are shown on the graphics we give you tonight. After Emily has given you that overview with regard to the site and our landscaping plan, Bob Polito of SLAM will give you a brief overview with regard to our exterior elevations, our interior floor plan, and our building materials. And then I will have, subject to any questions you may have, brief summary comments. So Emily Wright, you could...
Thank you, John. Good evening. As you'll notice, we are looking at a campus-wide plan of the projects that are going to be presented tonight. Hopefully you're looking at those in front of you as well. You'll notice that the new dormitory project, the new residence hall, is at the western side of campus. That's going to be completing the residential quad that exists there now. So we'll be revisiting this plan. So if you'll flip to the next page, you'll see the existing conditions via an aerial photo. And what I wanted to emphasize with this image is the residential quad and the form that it takes right now, and how the proposed building footprint outlined in red really completes that quad. And you'll also notice that the new building is primarily located on an existing parking lot.
Primarily located on what?
An existing parking lot.
Is the intention, I noticed that the loss is 40 parking spaces.
41.
41?
Yes.
So the application we're going to hear next is for the new parking garage, and that is to accommodate for the loss of parking spaces, I presume, plus, extra.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
And how many additional parking spaces are necessary for this building? Or is it your contention that none because they're students?
In your regulations, there's no specific requirement for student residential parking.
Right.
In this case, I would agree, since it is for sophomores who cannot drive, we don't perceive the need for any additional parking, but as you point out, and as we'll hear in the next application, there's going to be an opportunity for some additional parking
Right.
fairly proximate to this new dormitory.
Quick question for Mr.
Yeah.
Fallon.
Yeah.
Mr. Fallon, a parking-related question.
Yes, sir.
When you say that sophomores are not allowed to drive, do you mean that, does that mean that they are prohibited from parking on campus? Or does it mean that
They
are,
cannot have vehicles.
they cannot have vehicles? So,
We solved that battle
a long time ago, in other words, if
You'll
a student
recall.
tries to quietly park somewhere in the neighborhood and it's discovered, they're told this can't continue. Okay, just want to make sure.
That's what
Yeah.
has been a quiet situation over the last decade, half-decade.
Oh, I see. So, yeah, no,
Just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
I know it's the next application, but how many parking spots are in the parking garage?
I'll check for you, it's in my notes.
All right, thank you.
you have a question? Commissioner Barron's?
This new dormitory,
Yes.
can it be seen from like the homes behind the campus, the neighbors? Round Hill Road?
So if you look back at this aerial image, you can see that there's quite a bit of vegetation between the residences on Round Hill Road and the new dormitory. Currently, Regis, the dormitory adjacent to the new dorm site, is somewhat visible from Round Hill Road, but the new dormitory will be less visible than Regis currently is. In addition to being less visible, the new dormitory is also not as tall as the surrounding buildings. I believe Regis is 5 stories and Valiant is 4, so it will be nestled into taller buildings.
And when we had our meeting on September 27th with all the neighbors, on all 3 of the projects, one of which you've heard, there was not a special outreach, but, a significant outreach to the folks on Round Hill Road, so they would have an opportunity to come in, review all this. I don't speak for them, obviously, but I think they were well satisfied with what we were doing in our explanation.
Did you have a good turnout?
We had a reasonable turnout. We invited
I'm sure you did.
everybody, who would get notice of a hearing such as this
Right.
on both sides of the campus. It was not an overwhelming turnout.
10, 20, 50?
I did not attend, but my understanding was not.
It was a substantial turnout, in the district boardroom, I would say, probably 30 or 40 people.
30 people?
And the invitation was obviously very explicit in terms of these are the matters we'd like to discuss with you.
Right, right.
And perhaps
Maybe you're going to touch on this or someone else will, but I'm looking at, since we're talking about parking spots, I'm trying to understand the traffic flow. Is it not possible to travel that road, that sort of perimeter road, all the way around campus? Does that circulate? The arrows on the ground make it look like it's one way going out south, I guess. And then there are arrows coming up to the new building site that look like you can't get out because they're all going one direction. So I don't, is traffic for somebody else or should I?
So the way the traffic moves through the site currently,
Emily, can you make sure you're into the microphone?
Oh, sure. I apologize.
Let me take it off then.
Oh,
Be a rock star.
yeah. So traffic can move on West Langeth Road in one direction, and then you'll notice that it loops. I apologize, it doesn't show clearly on this
Yeah.
plan, but it loops around and it goes one way. This is East Langeth Road, and we are continuing the existing flow of traffic and looping it around, and then you can come back out at this edge.
So you cannot go to, what was that first road you said, the one that goes left, west something?
This is West Langeth and this is East Langeth.
So you can't go west all the way to that next parking lot in front of Regis?
I believe the intention is for it to be one way.
One way, like to the left right now? Okay, because then my next question,
The perimeter road, Mr. Hill, will not change the circulation there, but that, what you're referring to, we would propose to make one way.
well, my next question then is, if you look at the parking at the top of that building site, that's right on the road, the new, whatever it is, 8 spots, it looks like now if you go to the right end of that, the top of that, to the right, it looks like the curb and the grass reduced that lane to a one-lane road, so I'm not sure what's going on. If that's just a graphic issue, or if it's...
That's a graphic issue.
Okay.
Our site design plans are designed and created based on a survey, and the aerial photo sometimes doesn't align 100%.
Okay, so that'll
with
stay a
those
two-lane perimeter road, basically,
Yes.
through the campus?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question about traffic. I know currently in that area on the campus, it goes one way on that western, what's the name of the road? That one. So that goes, I guess, south, and then it goes north. Are you going to eliminate that?
This will be remaining in place.
So as you're traveling north, you're going to bear left past the building? Because it looks like parking spots there.
There is currently an existing connection, I think that's what you're
Yes,
referring to.
yeah.
And that connection will not be there anymore.
So if I'm
once the dorm
traveling,
is built.
up through the campus, from, the chapel, okay? And the ordinary path of traffic would make me bear right through the kind of the middle of the parking lot. So that's going to remain intact?
Yes.
How does it flow past the building? I must be missing something. It's going to circulate me. If you can just kind of clear my head there,
See, this is closed, you can't cut through there. They have to come this way, Yeah, but they just said this is one way going this way. Can't you? I know, that's what I don't understand. That's two-way there, because you said that this remains two-way.
Traffic can move in this general direction, and you can continue on through campus. Or if you are, have the need to come to the new residence hall, you can loop around this way and then back through. And this is where that connection is, where you can make your way back this way.
but that's one way, that's still...
One way south.
That's a one-way coming south though, right? What if you're coming from northbound? You can't get further into the campus? Is that
road a two-way or one-way now? The top road?
This road?
Yeah,
I believe this road is one way.
it will be one-way now.
It is now, and it will remain.
Unless that happened recently, last time I was on campus, you could drive around to Regis
David
from,
Frassinelli, who's our Vice President for Facilities this year, and I think let
Oh,
me
good.
kind of give you an overview in terms of existing traffic patterns and how, if any, changes
Right.
accumulate or come from.
Thank you, John. As John noted, I'm David Frassinelli. I'm the Associate Vice President for Facilities. And let me do my best Vanna White and hang here. So, currently, Regis Hall, the traffic comes up this way. And this is one way in that direction. If you're coming from this direction, you come into here and you have use of this lot.
look at the board on the floor, that one shows the current condition.
Correct, yeah, no, I understand. So the plan is going to be with this, that will remain north only. And if you enter this lot to exit the campus, then it would appear that we do not have a connection through here. So we will need to either revise this to create a connection to exit out this way or require people to exit out to the south only.
Well, if you put the connection there, then you're losing more parking spots, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
You gotta do something, because people are getting trapped in there.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
Well, not only that, but anybody who's there wants to be on the other side, you're gonna get more traffic now driving out exiting the south part of campus, going around campus and coming in on the Fairfield Prep side, instead of going through campus? And do we want that extra traffic on the streets?
So I remember years ago that flowed both ways.
Yeah, that's how I
So
recall.
I don't know if it's still wide enough to permit that and revert.
What I would suggest, I think the points that the commission raises are good points. I think what we intended to do, and may not be shown on the plan that you have in front of you, is to create and make sure that we have that connection, okay? That would, as Mr. Alessi, so you know, that would mean we'd lose about a half a dozen spaces. And to answer your question before, as we'll anticipate in the next hearing, right now the lot where the parking structure is proposed to go has 122 spaces. The parking structure will have 380. So there'd be a substantial increase in parking. So what I would ask or suggest that we might do is, we would agree or suggest that we would submit through staff a revision to this to show that connection maintained, so that, because I think the point that Commissioner McAleese and everybody's making is a good one, and that is, without the connection, you could unintentionally create a bottleneck that we don't intend, so that's...
Well, without the connection, people traveling into this circle can't get out.
Right.
It's
That's
more
the big
than a
bottleneck.
bottleneck.
Yeah. So that's how we would propose or suggest that we would do that. I mean, the solution, I think, is apparent. We just would have to submit a revised plan to show that we would maintain or create that
Can I make
connection.
a suggestion on the revised plan, if you go ahead that way? I can picture 2-3 days a year where this is gonna be a disaster if you don't have some sort of loading area for moving in and moving out, whether it be in the fall and in the spring. So my suggestion is, if you're gonna revise the plan, you're gonna take away some parking spots on the side, you know, you're gonna have to put a cut through in some sort of move in and moving out area for, I mean, you're putting a lot of rooms here, there's gonna be a lot of kids moving in. I don't know how Fairfield does it, but I know my daughter goes to school, it's crazy, and the loading area.
Generally, we have a highly efficient orientation program that doesn't really rely on traditional loading areas, because what happens is the junior class is responsible for the welcoming and orientation of the freshman class, so that as soon as a parent, and the parents are you know, allotted specific times to come on arrival day, and as soon as they arrive, they no sooner, you know, drive to the front of the building where there'll be a group of students who will unload them, take the things up, and the parents will go park the car and come back, and by the time the parents come back with the student, everything is in the room. So I think that's okay. I think the first point, as far as Chairman Wagner says and Mr. McAleese pointed out, we should revise and will revise the plan to show that connection, so that, you know, you won't have anybody unable to continue right through. And that will be done with the loss of, say, 6 spaces, which I don't think is significant, especially in light of the second application.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add, what you may want to, and I know you've been here longer than I have, but I remember when I was younger that road flowed both ways. So you may want to look at that. I don't know if I think you added the parking lot and then you put in the one ways. Maybe you don't have to lose those parking spots. It's for you guys to determine, I suppose.
Yeah, so I think that's what we'd like to do. I think we understand the sense of the commission on this. I think the points are extremely good points, and we would hope that we could, you know, subject to any other questions you might have, conclude the presentation tonight, conclude the hearing tonight, but submit a revised plan that you would have before your work session showing the modifications to the site plan that you're suggesting.
I think it would be helpful to have a circulation, a map for the campus with the revised circulation to show the arrows, you know, a little bit better than...
General.
Yeah, the traffic, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine. Mr. Frasnelli wanted to say.
Adding to the comments of John Fallon, keep in mind also that this is a sophomore dormitory, and the way we manage move-in, we have a specific day for the freshman move-in, which is a very highly organized and orchestrated event where we have public safety and queue up the cars, and we've actually implemented a new plan where different dorms are different time slots. As a sophomore dorm, you would still have your parents moving you in because you don't have a car, but that would be on a different day. The multitude of the quad dorms are freshman dorms, so having the sophomores moving in the following day, there will be substantially less traffic at that time.
No, that's not my question. My question is, okay, you know, if you look at the original plans that we have here, you could picture 30, 40 cars trying to pull up and no place to get out.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you had a staging area on the side, is all I'm saying, to unload them or whatever, and then move them out, that would be fine.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
We believe that the revised plan we submit will address getting people out.
We'll, just so we're all, we will submit the revised plan specific to this site and addressing the comments, the very constructive comments you've made. Also, pursuant to the chairman's request, we'll submit a campus-wide plan that'll just show you the existing circulations to be maintained.
Yeah, how this fits in. Yeah, you know, a new revised circulation plan for the campus, including the modifications that you're proposing.
Correct. Emily, are there anything else with the landscaping or?
I wanted to point out that this particular area of parking is permeable pavement, and we've created a bioretention area in the middle. You'll notice accessible parking is directly adjacent to the main entrance.
Yeah, there was, the police comment was that the requirement of an additional handicap space to be striped and lighted. Is that, did you do that following the comments?
I believe we did, yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
You'll notice that each of the building entrances are highlighted by a star on the plan. The main entrance from the parking lot is on the southwest side of the building. The main entrance from the quad side is on the southeast side of the building. We've tried to take the building program. There's a social gathering space within the building on this corner, sort of oriented towards the quad, and we've tried to create an outdoor plaza space that allows that social space to flow outside and into the quad. So we really tried to orient the social aspects of the building on the campus side. These entrances on the north side of the building, there is one egress entrance. There are two resident hall director entrances, and they also have patios. And there are two mechanical equipment entrances and then one bike storage entrance. Basement storage is accessed on this side of the building. The dumpster is located on the south side and is enclosed and screened with plantings. And the south side of the building is shaded with large shade trees, and we also tried to provide some screening to first floor dorm windows with shrub plantings along the edge of the building between the parking lot.
Thank you. I think we have a, Commissioner Alexi, a question?
No, none about that. We'll escalate around with the engineering.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Barron's?
Just about the overall plan, Mr. Fallenor. I don't know. What was your last name?
Right.
Right, okay. Is there anywhere in the plans where you show, because, I mean, we've witnessed a lot of Fairfield University applications and a lot of very successful, well-done applications. Obviously, the university is growing. Is there anything here that shows, like, where you'll stand after all this development on lot coverage in Floria vis-a-vis the entire acreage?
That was submitted, and that's part of your record on both applications.
Where is it? Where is it in the plan? Is it this
See
single
on
sheet? 'Cause I couldn't
the
make.
general
is it because of
information sheet?
This little sheet?
Yes.
I think you're gonna have to explain that to me. I didn't see like, I saw numbers, but it just had various schools. I mean, I'm looking for something that says everything, School of Business, everything, total.
That is the total. We were requested
Yeah, that's what it looks like, I didn't really understand it from here. I thought this might be where this was going, but I didn't really understand. I would expect to see something like the maximum is this percent, this much square footage, and we're up to the, just to try to understand about like what the potential for growth and future growth.
Certainly update that. That was the document that the staff requested.
I thought this is where this was going, I just don't see it.
Yeah, well, if you look, these are the four most recent projects.
Right, these are the four most recent projects.
School of Nursing, the Jerome Campus Center, the two projects tonight, and if you go down at the bottom column, residence hall, any cumulative impact, so you've got, they did a total of 24.6% of the total building floor area,
Okay, and it's 30%, yeah.
Right.
30% max.
That's what I wanted.
Right.
Okay.
It's maybe, but it's punitive. The
I
bottom
thought
line
this
is-
might be where we're going, but I was just confused by the chart itself. So what it's saying is that you've got a maximum building floor area of 30%, and assuming if all these applications were approved as
Two to go.
as
Two happen,
proposed,
two-
you'd be up to like 24.6%.
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know.
Great, thank you. Other questions before I ask, Mr. Polito? Bob Polito is here, also from SLAM. He'll briefly, walk you through the exterior elevations, building materials and the like.
Got a hot bench tonight.
It's been a tough night already. Emily explained how the building's sited on the property, and so she's gone over most of the important points as to how it reacts to the neighborhood. It's about 63,000 square feet. It's 3 levels with a partial basement. So as she indicated, Regis and some of the other dorms are 4 and 5 stories, so we've tried very hard to keep the elevation of the building down and to nestle the building and complete, the most important part of it is to complete this residential quad to give these new sophomores a chance to really participate in this broad residential part of the campus. It projects, we've really held it back. We put it into the heart of the campus so that we are not visually impairing and being very prominent from the neighborhood. If you look at the elevations first. The building is designed really to sort of fit into the whole architectural contents and the color and the palette of materials and brick of the existing campus. We've designed the building to really interface with a quadrangle. So all the activity coming and going and in and out of the building is really happening on the quad side of the building. There's the social part, whether it's the lounges or the classroom areas, and the main gathering areas are in the front of the building. They act as a beacon, and you can see it at night. You'll be able to see it from the bottom of the quad all the way up. It's a combination of the beige brick, which is a standard for the university, with curtain wall highlights. And the building, the scale of the building, we've tried to sort of break the scale of the building down by creating sort of recessed areas along the facade so that the building starts from a scale point of view also is more attractive to the neighborhood. If you look at the floor plans, the first floor plan here with the common gathering area and the shared lounges are in the front of the building. Most people are trafficking in through here. There's a through entrance there, and then the building basically repeats with 2-bedroom residential units on every floor, with a partial basement which has some mechanical units in it, and also the resident advisors' apartments in the lower level with direct exit.
On the second and third floor, on the left-hand side, are those 4-bedroom units?
These are each units, 2-bedroom units in that, and they act as a suite in there. There is common restrooms and bathrooms that are outside of that.
If you look on the bottom side of it, the left side, of second, third floor, Now, there's one common doorway that goes out to the common hallway, but there's 4 bedrooms, 1 little kitchenette area, and 2 bathrooms, right?
That's correct.
So why wouldn't we consider that as a 4-bedroom if we have 1 door going to the common area,
To the hall,
to the hallway, common area hallway?
for safety.
Given the number of people in there and the distance and the fact that this building's fully sprinkled, it is in compliance with that regulation.
We were just told though there's 2-bedroom apartment units though, right?
There aren't apartments in it, and I didn't quite understand the question, but yes, these are,
They're not, that's
There's-
not a 2-bedroom unit, that's a 4-bedroom unit.
I guess it's a matter of how you describe it. There are a room and a roommate, and a room and a roommate, and they share a common suite.
Yeah, but there's 1 door to the hallway.
Yeah, we're not saying a suite. A 4-room would be a room with 4 bedrooms.
No, but if I go into a
Yeah.
apartment and I go through 1 door, how many bedrooms are in that apartment? That's how many bedrooms are in the
I
apartment.
think if the issue is fire compliance and the fire chief's satisfaction, he's reviewed this, and the comment we referred to before would be the avoidance of.
Well, he did right here, in future, no 3 and 4 bedroom for egress.
In the future, correct. Correct, that's correct.
Could we get comments from the fire department on that one?
Yeah, he could,
I think that'd be,
that's fine, just,
be good clarification on the comment. Frankly, it's a little vague.
yes.
And the one above it's a 5-bedroom.
the issue, I think, is that there's no cooking in this. This is not a classic, there's no cooking in this. There's no kitchen in this. It's not considered an apartment.
Right. And I think that really the context is, and I understand your point about it not being an apartment, without cooking, but if there was an event and there was an evacuation, the access to the hallway for egress, which is what is common is in number 6, and whether or not, the fire department believes that this is acceptable, or if this, and to put in context comment number 6, as he's saying, this one's okay, but in the future, we don't want to see plans like this anymore. I would frankly be curious as to why that is, and if we don't want to see it in the future, why would we do it here? I guess is really the question.
I'm fine with the commission's suggestion that the fire marshal, A, return to approval of these plans, and B, clarify that code.
Yep.
Before we have that phenomenal city.
Yeah, what is that area though between the 2 bathrooms in those units?
The plumbing chase, the white?
That's
blue
the
part.
HVAC and plumbing chases, yes.
No, the blue part.
In the blue
The-
area.
In the blue area between the 2 bathrooms.
Now, move your finger to the left. You go
Yeah,
right there, right there.
Sinks.
Sinks? Oh,
and
so
then
that's
you have
the
a shower,
bathroom, and that's the
and a
sink.
shower,
and the
yeah,
shower.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
an open area for,
A little common open,
lavatory.
yes.
Right. Okay.
We have reviewed this extensively.
What's that?
Commissioner Kennelly?
I just wanted to ask, I'm sorry, was someone down the end?
Yep, no, go ahead, Commissioner Kennelly.
Okay, if I could, when you were doing the design, obviously you referenced the other surrounding buildings in terms of the massing and in terms of the look to maintain the consistent style on campus. I wondered, in relation to these concerns about the design, did you look at the design of say Regis Hall or some of these other dormitories? And is this in keeping with what they have, similar to it in any way?
As far as the
As
exterior
far as,
or
the interior, in other words,
the
you
interior.
had these questions.
This is actually something we've done in several other campuses.
Other campuses, but at Fairfield U, is this the first time this kind of a design with this, 2 and 2, 4, and the door out?
As far as this campus goes, I believe it is the first time it's
Okay.
been done on that.
So this may have been the first time
So one of
our
the
fire
advan-
marshal may have seen a design like this, is that for a
That's
university?
probably true.
And
yes.
you said that you've done this, could you give me an example or two of what other schools where you've done this design? or
Southern
something?
Connecticut, we did the dorm there,
Okay.
and then we're completing one in Central,
Okay.
and very similar condition there. What it does is it shortens the overall corridor,
Right.
so that it's not quite as lengthy, and, it just makes it a little more hospitable to actually be in the building. It allows us to sort of also generate a little more common space because we're reducing the amount of just general corridor in the building.
Well, undergraduates during the stress of finals might disagree who want to skateboard down the hall and throw shaving cream cans, with their lacrosse sticks down the hall, might like those longer ones. But I can't, not that I'm speaking from experience, but whatever. But I just was curious as to whether this might have been a departure for Fairfield U, and it sounds like it may have been such that, I don't know.
Well, when they started to actually put
that
bedrooms
organization.
together in suites, then looking at how you can organize suites and do it in a way that's efficient, started to generate, well, because we generate a lot of internal corridors, so then how do you extract in? So that's sort of how it evolved. Once you got away from just the double-loaded corridors and you started to go to suites, these things started to develop as an efficient way to design the building.
Very good.
Anything else?
Mr. McAleese, Mr. Lindsay, any other questions?
No, we just look at the plans on large scale.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Subject to any other questions that the commissioners may have, I mean, I think just to summarize, we're going to update the traffic circulation plan for the specific dormitory so that we do create that connection, so we're all comfortable with that. We're going to give you a campus-wide, just for context, circulation map so you can see what exists and what is and what will be after this project. I commend the fire marshal's further comments through staff to you. We have reviewed this with him. I agree, without any way being critical of him, that comment in the code is like, but he has reviewed these, but I think you should confirm that. And beyond that, this is a proposal that evidences our continuing commitment as a university to provide attractive and safe on-campus housing for our students. That's been a big commitment that we've made over the last decade. We continue to make that commitment and enforce that commitment. We think that's good for us. We think it's good for our students. We think it's good for the neighborhood and the community. And the location and the design of this proposed dormitory, we hope you'll agree, ensures that it'll be in character with and harmonize with the existing quad dormitory. We took this step before we came to you, as I've said, with review by our neighbors to make sure they were aware of what we were doing. And I think we're pleased that they were and felt that they were very comfortable with it. So we appreciate your consideration of this. We'll get you those additional items that I just referred to, and we hope you'll favorably consider this application.
Thanks. Final question. So in solid waste and recycling in the code comments, I just noticed number 5 is, or 4 and 5. 2 or 3 new dumpsters are to be moved. Dumpster location must be shown on the site plan with the elevation of the enclosure. That is the new dumpster that Ms. Wright pointed out?
Yes.
That's the new location?
Correct.
With the enclosure, so that satisfies number 4.
Right.
Number 5, no elimination of parking spaces are allowed. That comment is relative to moving the dumpster?
Correct.
Right, okay, and you didn't eliminate any parking spaces to satisfy those requirements?
We did not.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Are there any members of the public that wish to be heard on this item, the dormitory application for Fairfield University? Nope? Going once, going twice. Sold. All right, I'm going to close, assume you have no rebuttal. All right.
If I do, you're going to throw me out.
I'll close the public hearing on this item. Next is 1073 North Benson Road, special exception application of Fairfield University pertaining to the construction of a parking structure in a AA zone.
Give our first team an opportunity to head out, and we'll get our second group here.
You guys do that. I'm going to recess for 2 minutes. I have to use the restroom.
apartment has one door, one bath, or even No, yeah, I know, and I'm sure they're gonna come up with that. Yeah, there's one down there, see every down there. It's not clear.
Gone.
Yeah, but it's not clear to me. What ECD work? You know, that's a room right there. They've got it. Maybe some of these others, yeah. To me, it looks like there's actually strategy on these things, but they're not really assigned to do it. You could have asked that, I'm sorry. I didn't get it either. We'll have enough of that, yeah. Very focused. You worry about who you use what now. It's not like the apartments that they have for the junior dorms.
So-
They have like one door, 4 bedrooms, and a bathroom. These are much smaller.
I think it was 21.
I know.
Dude, can you?
Like, dude,
You should have your wife take a picture. If you really want to start shit, you post that on Facebook.
Are you kidding?
It's not a zone.
The Christmas family.
Yes.
With his family?
Two of them.
With his whole family.
I didn't get a Christmas card, but I got invited to the party this weekend. You got invited to that? Yeah. I got invited. Celebrating Chinese New Year.
Take personal.
No.
All right, buddy, take a look at this. You good? I'm like, are you kidding me? So he texted me, like, what are you having me doing this show?
Yeah, my daughter graduated.
That's weird.
University.
Waiting for Dolores. Dolores,
My daughter.
you sure? You ready? Okay. Call the meeting back to order. I already called the call. Attorney Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, for the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm here tonight representing Fairfield University. The application before you is for the construction of a parking structure on our campus. By way of background, the university, as you know, occupies 210 acres. On that campus, there are some 39 parking lots with approximately 2,700 parking spaces. Interestingly enough, though, when you look at the day-to-day utilization, obviously a vacant space in the School of Business lot is of little value to someone who's looking for a space in the center of the campus. Throughout the day and indeed from day to day and week to week, our parking needs and demands change on an almost daily basis. Staff, students, the prep school, sporting events, performance events, they all follow their own schedule. And sometimes what we find, among other situations, is when sporting and performance events occur on weekends, obviously their impact is offset by a lot of vacant staff parking. But when there are events at the same time of some peak parking demands, say for example between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on weekends, we do have isolated shortages. So we've looked at how we can deal with this and also some circulatory issues that I'll touch on in a minute. And what we've determined to do, subject to your review and hopefully approval, is to address the realities that we face by electing to locate a new parking structure, which you're going to hear about and are looking at now, on the east lot that's existing now adjacent to the Kelly Center, right in the center of the campus. We chose this, obviously, due to its ideal location in the center of the campus, thus providing us with a real opportunity to capture traffic coming in from the main North Benson Road entrance, which is obviously a primary focus of traffic during the day. That's important for a number of reasons, not the least of which, and if you come to the campus during busy times, you probably noticed this structure will alleviate having cars circling the campus area, especially the campus center area, the center of the campus area, looking for open parking space. We'll also have a structure in place that will allow us to better serve the faculty and staff on a daily basis, most of whom work primarily in the center of the campus. It's also going to provide a very good opportunity for dealing with parking needs for our sports venues, because we're very close to Lessing Field, Rafferty Stadium, and Alumni Hall. In addition, as I point out in my statement, the Kelly Center is the home of our admissions office, so this parking structure will provide a very safe and efficient area for people not familiar with the campus coming for tours and the like to park. Another benefit that we feel will derive from this is in the event of snow emergencies. We're going to have a plan in place that will ask the students to park within the structure, which will obviously have convenience for them, but will also make it easier for us to more expeditiously remove the snow from the parking lots. The numbers are that the new structure is going to increase parking on the campus. The current Kelly lot has 122 spaces. The new structure will have 380. Interestingly, from an environmental standpoint, the new structure will actually reduce impervious surface, and also is going to provide us an opportunity to really provide some green landscaping areas, as you'll see with the plans we're reviewing. Indeed, as you'll also hear, the entire east elevation of the parking structure is going to include vertical green panels with actual living plants. So it's not going to be a stark structure at all. We actually think it's going to have a nicer aesthetic impact than the sort of open parking lot that's there now. It's in the center of the campus. It obviously has no visibility from most of any portions of off-campus or the streets surrounding our campus. We did in fact have that meeting with our neighbors on September 27th last year and reviewed the plan with them as well. We had a code enforcement review with regard to this particular proposal on August 16th. You have those comments. We've complied with them. We did receive an inland wetlands permit for this project on September 8th, 2016. And you also have Laura Pooley's email of January 20th, which indicates that we have addressed with regard to this proposal all comments that she had with regard to site engineering. With me tonight is Christopher Cardenet from Langen Engineering. Should you have any questions with regard to the site engineering as reviewed by the engineering department and the Inland Wetlands Agency, Chris would be happy to answer those for you. Also here tonight, as was the case with the last application, is Mike Galante from Frederick P. Clark and Associates. He has submitted an extensive traffic report that also was submitted to the state with regard to this proposal. In its essence, based upon conversations with the state, Mr. Galante's report assumes a small or a percentage increase associated with this particular facility, because, and he can explain that if you have questions, because that's how the state wanted to approach it. In point of actuality and fact, this particular parking structure is not going to increase our traffic volumes. It is an effort on our part to deal with existing parking needs that from time to time arise, and also provide more convenient and safe parking for our faculty, staff, and visitors. Our presentation tonight is going to be from Jose Hernandez of Newman Architects. He'll walk you through the architectural design, building materials, and the like. Norm Goldman, VP of Desmond Design Management, who has also collaborated with Newman with regard to this proposal, will talk to you a little bit about the site and the building function that is proposed. So at this point, I'd like to call on Jose to give you an overview with regard to the architectural design.
Thank you, John. My name is Jose Hernandez. I'm a principal with Newman Architects. I have appeared before this commission as the architect of record. Tonight, I'm appearing before this commission as a design consultant. We're not the architect of record, and we were engaged by Desmond to be the design, essentially the design architects. As John indicated, I will walk you through the palette of materials. It's going to be fairly simple and fairly clean, and I can just start the presentation by suggesting that when you look at the relationship between Kelly Center, can everyone see this panel that's down here? Okay, so the relationship between Kelly and the what will be the parking garage is fairly close in proximity to each other. If this gets too far away, let me know and I'll bring it back. So what we tried to do is take our cues from the Kelly Center and pick up the rhythm, the materials, the size, the scale, and essentially try and visually bring those two projects together. The distance between these two is about 50 to 55 feet, and the scale in terms of the vertical scale, it's you can see that we've tried to keep the plane in the same vertical distance off grade. In terms of how it sits with its neighbors, in the proximity of the buildings and the neighbors that it sits in, as with the previous presentation that was just made, we're lower than our neighbors, and so we feel we're being a good neighbor in terms of the design, in terms of the scale. Virtually all of the materials on the outside of this building are, it's precast. And what we've done is we've taken a very simple material and tried to give it some life. We try to give it some warmth and try and have it relate to the Kelly Center. We have the main stair is a glass stair. There's an elevator in that stair, and we have a connection going from from the garage over to Kelly. To give the panels, the exterior panels along Loyola, we've added some rustification to the forms. And so that rustification really is clear in this rendering here. And when I say rustification, what I mean is about every 16 inches, we have a horizontal reveal that was that's in the cast. And so it's going to, as the sun comes across the sky, it's going to be given that facade quite a bit of texture that we feel is really required to break it up and to give it that sense that it's something other than a parking garage. We're truly trying to make a statement between those two buildings. As John had indicated, if you look at Lieber, and I apologize that it's a partial, but on Lieber Road, we have green screens. So if you're coming onto campus off North Benson, you come to that intersection, you would take a right. That whole facade is a series of green screen panels that will encourage, I mean, it's called a green screen because we encourage the growth of vegetation on those panels. It's a simple but effective device. Along Loyola, in in between those panels, we have metal grills, and those grills, again, is a very simple device that's meant to give it a scale that's in keeping, I'm not going to try and tell you it's residential, but it's in keeping with trying to break up those forms.
All right. So those also are where the cars are parked, so the grills sort of shield.
That's exactly
the parked
correct.
cars.
That's exactly correct, Mr. Chairman.
So the whole roof area is also parking, right?
Yes.
So as cars, it doesn't appear to me that there's anything that really prevents the cars from driving up to close to the front of the building there. How tall is that edge there?
This edge right here?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to speak to the aesthetics. Norm Goldman is going to speak to the function, and rather than try and have a two-way conversation.
That's fine. My question now is about aesthetics.
Okay.
Because it would seem to me,
It's
given
about 34 inches.
34 inches?
Is that about right? No? 34,
So it's
36
about-
inches? Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. Okay. And so my question to you with respect to aesthetics is, given everything that you've just said, it would seem to me that you would not want to be able to see, a row of cars parked along the top. I think that would defeat many of the purposes that you just described. When the parking lot is full and there are cars parked on the roof, will you be able to see them from the street, from the ground?
Well, that's a good comment, and it's a good observation. And the reality is that if you do have cars along there, you're going to see them. I mean, that's just the fact. You are going to see them. But what we weighed in the design and how we were looking at a section through there was weighing how frequently would that parking lot be filled with cars along that edge, as opposed to bringing up what would be a permanent piece of precast that would establish that height, regardless of whether cars are there or not. So it was really an aesthetic judgment call.
Commissioner Lester?
I mean, we're pretty, when it comes to like mechanicals, we're always worried about stuff like that, seen it from the road, and we want them hidden.
Yep.
I would think in this instance, we would want the cars hidden, showing on the roof as well, for one of, besides aesthetics, also safety as well. So I am not favor of seeing, and I could see it in that rendering there, you could see the cars on the roof from across the street. I mean, my own personal view would not be in favor of something like that. I would like to see some sort of parapet wall or something, hiding the cars from the street.
And that's, we respect, and we're here, and you guys have the final say. The only thing I'd ask, as you deliberate on that, because that's certainly something we can do to consider, is we did look at that carefully in the context of both aesthetics, and safety is not really an issue, because as Norm will talk about, you have, that's not an issue. But
No,
these,
hold on, before you say that's not an issue, move off of that. Police comment number 2, where you're talking about a rail on a house or a porch or something like that. It's one thing. We've got a specific comment in here from the police on that.
right, but I think the 34-inch, I mean, that's a barrier, okay?
34 inches is 3 feet. It's up to your waist.
Okay. The other point I was going to make, we did look at the aesthetics, and,
And again, it's a good point. So let's talk about 34 to 36 inches, which is about this high. That's about the height of the front of a car. So whether we look at the front of a car, which is not going to be a permanent fixture, as opposed to a 34 to 36 inch parapet wall that would be a permanent fixture, That's what I'm saying. We looked at a section through that, and we weighed that. And so what this rendering shows is exactly what you would see from the ground.
Right.
You're
That
gonna be
includes-
looking up.
That includes the 36-inch,
Yeah,
Well,
yes,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. This
Yeah.
elevation and that elevation are cut from the same BIM, the same software model that
Right.
we use for this.
yeah. So how do I reconcile the 36-inch, rail height general requirement with police comment number 2?
About suicide.
And because the building is over 20 foot off grade.
You have, with all due respect, I think you have to take that comment under your own advisement. I'm not belittling the comment, but I think that if someone is apt, God forbid, to commit suicide, whatever we're talking about here is not going to prevent that. And I thought that was an unusual comment for a code meeting, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful sense. What I would like you to think about is, if the assumption were that this structure was going to be regularly and usually filled to the brim so that the rooftop area would be always, or almost always, filled with vehicles, we might have reached another conclusion. When that is likely to happen, however, will be during times of sporting events, lacrosse games, basketball games, so on. And on a day-to-day basis, we don't think that upper rooftop area will be used significantly. So balanced against that, we looked at screening, and it's just going to detract from everything that we endeavored to do aesthetically, and that Jose described so well in terms of making the building less of a parking garage look, making sure that it blends well with the Kelly Center, and making sure that it blends well into the overall campus.
And I agree with all that, and I think it does. I mean, we're not, it's wonderful. It is beautiful the way it fits together. But we, our job is to review for safety and compliance issues, and it seems like the two went hand in hand. You're trying to make it, blend and not be a parking garage, and yet you're going to have cars parked on top that you can see. And I've got a comment in, the code enforcement.
I don't know what you do with his
Safety.
comment, though, with all due respect.
That's all I'm trying to say.
I don't know what you do. I mean, the code comments are just that, and we all try to honor the code comments, and they're important guidelines for you. But not every code comment is gospel. And with all due respect to the police representative, who I have the greatest personal and professional affection for, I thought that was a sort of off-the-wall comment. And honestly, that's as frank as I can be about it. The issue of making sure that there's a barrier that protects cars from jumping the barrier, that's absolute. So you'll have to make a decision, which we will respect, whether you feel the 34 or 36-inch wall is sufficient for that purpose. Because safety is safety, and that is a safety issue. And that's what I thought comment 2 should have said.
I know it's...
But on the rest, it's the aesthetics, and you'll decide that too. But we would rather not.
Increase the wall.
Correct.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Thanks. Commissioner?
I have a...
Yep, 1 second, Commissioner Merrick.
sorry.
Commissioner Francis?
I disagree with the comment that it would be a suicide attempt. There have been accidents out of parking garages where people, and I think it's generally that they hit the accelerator instead of the brake and have gone off the 3rd and 4th floor. There was a bad one in Hartford 10 or 20 years ago. I remember it. It's so unique, and they just fly off. And how high is a Jersey barrier that people go over? Again, on the accelerator, but those are about 3 feet, aren't they?
So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to get back to the comment and separate it.
I was trying to keep it separate.
Oh, well, no, and in fact, it's a good point that you've made, and it's a good observation. What I'm trying to do is keep what I'm saying focused on the aesthetics and the decision-making process, because I can't address the issue that, item number 2. What I can suggest is that with regard to the function of being able to stop a car, we have been able to do that.
I think we all understand
Yeah.
the separation of the two issues and your comments, and I personally appreciate your comments, and I understand them.
And I don't want to anticipate Mr. Goldman's comments, but he will, I think, testify about, this isn't left to individual whim. There are code regulations
Right.
that relate to this, and he'll explain to you what those code regulations are and how we meet them.
Yeah, I was trying to, my question was for you to help me
Right.
understand the intention of the comment and how it relates to, compliance with the
I'm not trying to be
regulations.
flippant with that comment,
Yeah.
but I
No,
mean,
absolutely.
You've answered the question.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say before Mr. Hernandez summarizes and Mr. Goldman comes up, please keep in mind as we have this discussion, and the rendering may or may not be a great source of that, but the 34 or 36-inch wall and the building's height, what is the height of it? 29 feet. You're not going to have a lot of sightline visual opportunities to review cars there unless you got a drone. And again, I hope you'll weigh that before we start modifying the architecture in a way that I don't think is positive. So in other words, what I'm saying is if I'm standing here where these young men are, the fact of the matter is, and the rendering may or may not show this, but the fact is, with the wall, and there where they are, or where they are, or where they are, or where they are, or where they are coming in, people coming in, very, very, very few people will see those cars. And I think in an effort to screen cars that won't basically be seen much anyway, it'd be a shame if the building became less planned.
Mr. Chairman, can I have
Yeah,
one or two?
you're in line,
Oh, okay, give this other,
Commissioner
I'm sorry.
Barrett's here to question.
No, I think I'll pass. I think I'll just pass my question. I mean, I had a question.
We're all here, so-
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can answer it. I mean, I had a question about this, it was really related to the suicide prevention comment. Because again, none of us can understand what the officer might have meant, but I could suggest that it was that possibly because of a rooftop that's so easily accessible with no barrier for somebody jumping off it, I think, it could be something like, as opposed to climbing out a window or doing things, it just almost like makes it too easy. And that may have been what he's getting at, and it could be some other incidences where maybe things like that have occurred on other campuses or in other cities around.
I think that's right, Mr. Commissioner, but I'm sorry, I was going to start to say more ands rather than buts. And I believe it's also germane to recognize that however we talk about what's a very sensitive issue about suicide, it's very difficult to address. And truly, I think the only way to address it in this circumstance would be one of two ways. You lock access to the roof, which I think we do, or you have a barrier that is simply too high to scale. And so that's why I was trying to keep it as aesthetics. And the model, these renderings are based off.
Prevention doesn't need to be physical on the roof. Prevention can be some, access or restricted access for only people who are like parking their cars there or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing things
Through all
out.
that, but I mean, if I've got my car parked up there and it's
Yeah.
open, how do I stop a young man? God forbid, I think we had this conversation, how am I gonna do that? Do we see your keys before you go to?
No.
I think it was a somewhat overreaching comment. I think the general safety and what Commissioner Francis talked about in terms of vehicular issues, and Ms. Goldman will address that, and aesthetic issues are important. But if we start measuring every application we see here from a standpoint of suicide prevention, I think that's taking it very far.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Commissioner McAleese, it's time.
Mine goes back to the aesthetics of the, whatever you call it, the screen on the side, on the east side, I guess, yeah.
Yes.
Is that on the other two elevations as well? The back
Yes.
and just
No,
that one elevation?
It's just on this elevation.
So like what you see here, this rendering, then, it's nothing. So they're looking out at open windows or
So if
openings
you're
in
in
the wall?
Kelly here, and you're looking across towards the garage, what you're looking at will be, essentially, it'll be,
The concrete?
I won't say standard, but it'll be a
I'm looking through the...
piece of precast.
Maybe it's in the big giant one.
Horizontal,
Open it up.
of horizontal precast.
Oh, so it's going to have the similar treatment to what you have in the front elevation? That's going to wrap around, that sort of horizontal banding?
It is not going to have the rustification.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, Norm, but if you were to look in there where we're making these panels intentionally wider, so
Okay.
it does kind of reduce the scale of the opening, we're not taking that treatment into here. And
The color in concrete, but, okay.
Yeah, with the tower,
Sure.
what the stair and elevator tower does is it
Doesn't
creates
reach.
a stop here.
Okay.
So this facade moves to that,
Oh, I see.
and then when you move back in here, the same thing with Kelly, it's very plain on that side.
Oh, okay.
So we made it sort of repeat the Kelly.
And the back of the building looks like that side, basically?
Yeah,
Something like that?
yeah.
Yeah, so the back side,
Okay.
yeah, so the north side and the west side.
Well, then it sort of begs the question, well, before I get into the safety, my other question then is about the exiting. So you enter there, and I saw there was one on that other side street. No, the vehicle. I see one vehicular access right there.
Vehicular entrance here, and, okay, well, I'll get into that.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr.
Norm Goldman, Vice President for Desmond Design, and he'll talk to you.
Oh, Commissioner
Pick up on the Commissioner, your
Okay,
question.
maybe he'll answer this. Sure.
Thank you. Good evening. I think
No,
I'll
wait,
take
please.
your
Okay.
question first because I might forget it by the time.
Sure. Just where the exit, I see the one entry there,
Yeah.
and then I see there's another exit and entry.
Actually, the best thing to do is to put this up because that's a functional plan. Right? And what you can see is we have one exit coming down, one entrance coming down Loyola, and that is for primarily new students with potential students with parents and everything else. That'll be signed for Kelly Center parking.
Okay.
So coming down Loyola from North Benson, you just pull in there and then you go around. You get, this ramp goes up, and then when you go to the next floor, that's where all the handicap spaces are. And this elevator and stair core, you come down from above, and you wind up in this little plaza that's been created with a covered roof that goes all the way over to Kelly. So if people come out of the stair and elevator tower, they make a left turn, they go into this covered walkway, and they go right underneath the Kelly portico, so they're not in the inclement weather.
Okay.
And that tower is part of what we consider to be what we call passive security. It's all glass, so you never feel like you're alone. You can see in, you can see out. The other stair tower, that's, excuse me? Yeah, and the other stair tower in this corner has its glass facing this way, so that you can see people in the stair tower before you go into the stair tower, which is always an issue for pedestrians. So everything is open. There are no columns in the way. It's like, the same kind of portico as you have at Kelly Center. We sort of created that and brought it over to the garage.
And then that's the only exit there at the top right.
Well, here we have an entrance and an exit.
Yeah.
So for vehicles. But for
Yes.
pedestrians, the code says we need 2 entrances and exits for pedestrians that have to be within a certain distance from any place on the floor that's under 200 feet. So that's the way we measure where the pedestrian stair tower is.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Norm Goldman. I've been in this business for almost 40 years, and thank God I've never had a jumper, okay? But to answer the question about this configuration, by code, we have to create a spandrel beam that withstands certain impact ratings at 12 inches to 24 inches above the floor. They raise that now because of the SUVs and the panel trucks that are coming into garages. It used to be 12 to 24, now it's 12 to 30 some odd inches up. And it also creates a handrail, and the handrail, you can't have any more than a 4-inch opening between any of the rails on the facade, and the handrail has to withstand the impact of a 50-pound linear hit, okay? So the bumper guard that for the car is like almost 10,000 square feet an inch, and the handrail is 50 pounds a linear foot. So that creates what we call some of the standards for the protection around the perimeter of the building to prevent vehicles from driving through the barrier and to prevent people from falling over the barrier. We do a lot of healthcare facilities. Some of the healthcare facilities have put screens on the roofs of their garages, and what happens is it turns out looking like a bird cage. So you know, you have to balance that against the other. This garage is only 2 levels above grade. It's not 8 levels above grade or 6 levels above grade. It's not you're probably going to get hurt more than dead jumping from the roof of this garage.
Commissioner McAleese?
Just, because you just said something about a handrail, so these renderings show us a handrail? It looks like just a parapet wall. Is there a handrail on top of that, then? You were just describing?
Yeah, you can't see it from where you are, but you can see the handrail. Here, let me bring this
It's not on these.
Jose, show
That
me
might have
more.
been the problem. It's not on
Yeah,
this.
the precast, it's tough to see, but there is a handrail
That explains
that's
it.
on top
It's not
of
these
the
renderings, that's why.
precast parapet.
Not on this one. It just shows the parapet with nothing on top. That's why it looks like just a
On
load.
some of the small illustrations, it doesn't show.
That might have answered some questions if we all had that.
That's another job.
Okay, okay. So what's the height of the top of that handrail then?
42 inches.
42?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a little better.
That's
Might have
42
resolved
inches.
the police question.
So from deck height to the top of the rail is 42.
Right. And as you can see on, just take this down for a minute.
Dude, you want to do it.
As you can see on this rendering, if you follow the parapet all around, the spandrel, you can see that the spandrel, and this is a rendering, it's not an engineering drawing.
Sure.
So what happens is, you can see that's this parapet that comes up from below, and that's what we call a light wall that holds the structure that's going this way across it. But you can see that this height here is lower because it's an architectural perspective. It's not really, what really shows.
Sure.
It's not really lower, it's 42 inches all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here you can clearly see the glass enclosed stair and elevator tower, and we do what we call a tree column. So the stair only has one column, and it's open all around. There are no doors, right? Because it's an open parking structure, you don't need fire enclosed stairs. So what we do is we open it to the inside of the garage, so as you drive around, you can see the stair and elevator tower. You never get lost. And then this is the portico that comes out of the garage to the Kelly Center, and that's the plaza we talked about. We talked about the capacity of the garage. There's about 121,000 square feet of parking here, 42,000 square feet of typical floor. We're adding about 250 spaces to the campus with this garage, and forgive me, I do some notes now because of age, but we have ADA handicap parking in here. We have 6 regular ADA spaces and 2 van spaces, that's by code. So the van spaces create an issue for us in terms of height. So we have to have an 8-foot 6-inch clearance all around the garage in order to get the handicap vans in. And the handicap vans can come in either the entrance off the Loyola or the other entrance. So it's not an issue. The traffic pattern is really very simple. Let's get one of those boards up. You, as we said, you enter and exit from Lever, right? Or from Loyola. This is the up ramp, that's the up lane. You come in here and you go up that ramp. And when we have a little facility in here that has 2 electric car charging stations in it for future use, and it'll be wired to create more. And we have bicycle racks, interior bicycle racks, so to put their bikes in there. We have 2 machine rooms here, and a rolling grill door that gives the university place to put some equipment underneath this ramp, or like mowing or anything else. It's storage, dry storage facility. This is the way, it's rather small, but this is the way the stair winds up and the elevator comes out, and you make that turn. So this is the up ramp. You go up that ramp, and as you can see on the roof of this garage, that ramp comes up from below. There's a floor in between there that's at this point. You come up to the roof, right? You circulate around the roof, and you go down that hill. So you can't get lost in it. It's very simple. Because there's no place to go other than up or down or out. And we just did an 800-car garage at Salem State University that works very well, and that actually got green garage certification for bronze. So what the university wants us to do is look at everything that we can do to possibly make this an environmentally satisfactory garage, and that's why the green screens are here. And they go all the way up the road. As far as distance to neighbors are concerned, the garage, that's 1,600 linear feet, that's 4.5 football fields. So the garage is down here, and the closest neighbors are right here. And that's, yeah, right. So, and this is an elevation that gives you an idea of how long it is and what the sight lines are. And the garage is depressed at this point, so we have a little berm that goes up to the garage in the back.
And they were all sentences part of that.
Right. I think that's, let me see. Oh, yeah, well, John, you mentioned before, the garage is designed to support the athletic facility at Rathbury Stadium and Alumni Hall parking. It's that lot is full all the time, and when you drive in there, that lot is not a nice thing to look at either. So this will at least present some continuity between Kelly and the garage when you make the turn on the corner. Let's see. We held the garage back purposely from the street to give it relief. So most garages that you see, particularly whether they're in town, we're doing one now at New Canaan, that's like right on the back of sidewalk, because that's all the land they had. The university decided to move this thing back so that you could see the corner of Kelly when you're coming down the street, and it gives you some breathing room between the street and the front of the garage, which is a nice place for us to put a lot of landscaping and greenery and that kind of stuff. So that's going to be a nice thing. It's certainly not taller than Kelly. It's approximately the same eyebrow. What Jose was talking about was we created a bunch of eyebrows that actually make the roof look like it's smaller right in here, but the roof goes down to like right underneath that eyebrow. So there's a depth in there that you can't see from here. Charging, oh, security. Campus security is in the lower level of Kelly. We have CCTV systems that are spread throughout the garage. We have passive security I talked about, and we have 100% Wi-Fi coverage. There will be, the lighting systems will all be LED, and they're going to be controlled by a time clock with a photocell override, so that if you get a dark day, the lights are going to come on because the photocell will control the lights. We're also breaking the lighting system down to 3 zones. The 2 exterior lanes, bays will be on one zone, and the interior bay will be on the other zone, because the interior bay doesn't get as much light as the exteriors do, so sometimes you walk in there and you need a little more light on the interior. So that will be done, and then on the lower level, it will be a different zone, because that's almost enclosed altogether. Okay? But we meet all of the opening, there's a code requirement for open area, because this is classified as an open parking structure. And that means we have to have so many linear feet of openings around the perimeter on each floor, which we do. We comply with that. And that's it.
Anyone have any questions?
Those are answered.
Yep, Commissioner Canelli.
I was saying, Mr. Chairman, that I was concerned about CCTV and lighting infrastructure.
Okay, very good. Anyone else have any other questions? Yep, Commissioner Francis.
Who will be parking in this? No staff and no students, just it's all for visitors?
No, we will use it for, not students, except in emergency situations like the storm, but it certainly will be used by faculty and staff. One of the main reasons we want to have it is it's a central, they park in that Kelly lot to somewhat overflowing sometimes now. So yes, it will be used for them. Where it will be also very helpful is during special event type things like basketball games, lacrosse games, soccer games, or larger things that we have, which are normally not during the 9 to 5 workday. This will be a great place for people to find convenient, safe parking. And that's really, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
And that's really what the whole application is about. We wanted to address a manner, as I won't be redundant, where we could better and more conveniently deal with the parking needs that we have now for our faculty, our staff, and visitors to the campus. And this will serve that benefit. It will avoid a lot of circulating, looking for spaces. It just has a lot of benefits. But it was a step that we took carefully because of the aesthetic considerations. And I won't be redundant in my comments on that too, but I hope you'll carefully consider that, especially in light of I think the clarified testimony that we all got as far as the handrail and so on and so forth, because we'd hate to lose what we worked so hard to achieve. And through this building is actually, it's hard to say, but I mean it, it's going to be nicer aesthetically than that open, yawning lot right now. It really will when it's finished, and it does reduce impervious area. So we're here for any questions you might have, and we appreciate your consideration and attention.
One last thing about the business, about the cars on the roof.
Yep.
So to get a better sense of how this is being used, generally what will happen is faculty are going to be in there, probably not at full capacity, maybe jamming the roof necessarily, because you'll be closer to the match of what you had on the lot.
Correct.
But what you're really going to have in situations where your roof parking might be massive, like used up to capacity, might be the big lacrosse game, the big whatever event is happening at Rafferty.
Correct.
That then on a Saturday you might be there, but everyone's focus pretty much is let's get over to the field and see what happens. That's the idea. That the hope is, or the expectation is, that the usual Monday through Friday it may not be quite jammed to the top. Is that I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No,
Is
that's
that a
absolutely
reasonable?
fair. That's
My
absolutely-
reason is perception is something
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
absolutely a fair
If it's
statement.
the big day, the big game on campus,
Right.
you get there might be some cars up there.
And
Is
the other
that
thing I
true, or-
mentioned, that's absolutely correct, Ms. Coney. The other thing I mentioned in my statement, I think, is we have two big type orientation days where people come. Those are twice a year. You could have parking up on that level there because we get a lot of parents, but the very limited, I think, will be the use.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? Going once, going twice?
Thank you
Close the
very
public
much.
hearing. Thank you. Next item. For those of you who've been waiting so patiently, 332, 360 Meadow Street, special exception and special permit for excavation and fill, application of County Realty Company pertaining to an automobile service facility in the design commercial district.
I didn't get rubber bands. I didn't get these cool kid rubber bands. I got the plain old. Or are these like, these are Republican rubber bands? They got President Page. That's your, Mr. Trump's hair.
That's coming off.
That was me. May I begin?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jackie Kaufman. I'm an attorney with Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy. We have offices in Stamford and New Haven. I represent Country Realty, which is the owner of 332 and 360 Meadow Street in Fairfield. We're here tonight to discuss the redevelopment of this site for use by New Country Lexus and New Country Toyota. These are entities that are owned by Country Realty. They operate in town, the Lexus service dealership and the Lexus pre-owned facility. This site will be used for a pre-inspection delivery facility, which was a new term to me in the car dealership and service arena. But what they'll do is provide the same great quality and service for their customers, although this site will be strictly used by Country Realty and by New Country for service. It's not actually accessible to customers, which differs from the other two facilities in town. This is simply a support facility where vehicles will come to be washed, inspected, detailed prior to delivery. If it's a new vehicle, plastic will come off here. It will be given a final inspection, and if it's a pre-owned vehicle, it will be detailed. Light repairs may be made, and other related services. There's also an office component here and a bay that will be used for a video bay, which when you go online, if you're looking for a car online, you may see a 360-degree view, photographs, and a video. They will have a bay that will allow them to do that here in Connecticut. Ultimately, we will see an underdeveloped and very informal site. If you are familiar with the site and drove by it in anticipation tonight, what we've done is thoughtfully designed a new compliant building, compliant with underlying zoning, a compliant development. A modest-sized building will replace what you see today. There will be an organized parking area, an attractive streetscape, new sidewalks, landscaping. I think it will ultimately be a great improvement for this corner. I'd like to start by just submitting into the record a certificate of mailing. We have had some contact with our neighbors as part of previous applications, so I had guaranteed to them that I would reach out to them personally. So in addition to any notices that were prepared by the town, we've also done an additional notice.
Those are the addresses to which you sent notices?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
So it's a certificate of mailing, also a copy of the letter and the enclosures that we provided to them.
Great. Thank you.
And I did not receive any calls from our neighbors, and there was a companion variance case that accompanied this last year, and we did have some communication with them. At that time, it was all supportive. I'd like to introduce with you right now members of our team who have traveled to be with us tonight. To the extent you have any questions, we can call upon them. Dan Tompkins of Environmental Design Partnership, who's our site planner and landscape architect and can also speak to our engineering questions. John Penny of Penny Designs, the architect, and Mike Galante of Frederick P. Clark Associates, our traffic engineer. The subject site is actually comprised of two addresses that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, but they make up this area that I put you to here on our Google Earth image. What you can see here is quite a bit of grass, cars parked on our spaces, and also a freestanding house. In 2015, this was demolished, and if you were to drive by today, as is evidence on the photos that were made for your application, it would be a different configuration and certainly less. 332 and 336, if this application is approved, would be consolidated. You can see here that the property is bound by New England Avenue and Meadow Street. There are access points, vehicular access points, off of Meadow Street, which are off of Meadow Street here, and off of New England Avenue, down to the north by I-95, and to the northeast by a commercial property. We're in the DCD zone, the designated commercial district, and the commercial drive area designated district overlay. Property is shy of an acre. It's 0.79 acres, 34,411 square feet, and as I mentioned, doesn't really have much on the site other than the cars that are being parked there. It's used by New Country now as an off-street parking facility, so there's inventory that is parked there regularly, and that is a permitted use as of right in this zone without any needed approvals. So what we have, what we're proposing tonight, these are the photos that you have in your packet. Site plan of the materials that you were provided with. We are proposing an auto repair facility that is the closest definition in your regulations to the proposed use. And even though this is not a repair facility that is of the same caliber, nature, or intensity as that up the street, which you reviewed and approved an expansion to a few years back, that is the most germane definition. So that's what we're calling it under 12.4.28.5. This permits washing, repair, painting, processing, and all of the services that this facility will provide.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Does this include things like oil changes or other services that may have some sort of runoff from chemicals and things from the car at all?
I don't believe so. There is an oil separator that has been provided, but I'm going to look to Dan Tompkins. Is there?
But as a general, I mean,
No, I'm happy to.
dirty cars are one thing, oil's another.
There will be some light maintenance by, for example, if a car comes off lease, it may be processed here.
Right.
An oil change is entirely possible.
Okay.
There's floor drains in all of the work days.
Right.
And the floor drains are connected to an oil water separator, which in turn goes to the sanitary sewer system.
Right.
That way, it stays separate from stormwater runoff, for example.
Well, let me ask you this question. I understand it's automobile repair is closest to our definition, but if you were characterizing what the work here will be, would it be closer to something like a car wash and detailing facility?
Yes.
Or one that is a
Yes.
mechanical facility, like, for example, the one we eventually approved for, Honda, where we have 33 bays that do all sorts of work? That's not what that's
It's going to be weighted far over in the detailing
Right, it's a
category.
prep facility to make the cars look nice. There's an occasional chance for an oil change, but that's not the kinds of heavy work you do. Is that fair
That's
to say?
correct. You're not going to see heavy engine repair. You're not going to see body work.
Okay.
But,
You got it.
we have to say that there will be some oil changes, Right.
Thank you, Dan. The building that's proposed is 5,513 square feet. Is located in color tiered brown. I'm going to with my pen. It's one long building that will be built into the back and graded into the rear of the site on the I-95 corridor. We just talked a little bit about that use. As I mentioned, it's exclusively for the Fairfield and Westport dealerships. There are 9 work bays that are associated with the building. There are 11 bay doors. These nine bays that I'm pointing to here will be the F bay. This bay here is the video bay that I spoke of earlier. And this bay here is the refuse bay. So all of the trash and refuse associated with this use is going to be located inside the building.
Is it badged externally? It's not here on the rendering. Is it badged externally as a Lexus property or something like that?
No, actually, there will be no signage
There's no
that's
signage
going to
at
be
all.
associated with this. Because they're not looking to have any wayfinding for customers.
I
This
see.
is strictly
So this is an
used by the
internal
facility.
operations thing, so as a result, you're not expecting
That's
visitors
correct.
coming to you other than those assigned to come in to turn in a lease, or maybe not. Is a lease
No,
car
actually,
gonna go
this
to the dealership?
is, the way
I
that
see.
the way that the cars will come here will not even be by tractor trailer. One thing that you would see out there today is that several inventory vehicles can be delivered by a tractor trailer, and that is not part of this design. That the facility will be strictly, or the inventory will strictly be shuttled by New Country employees
Got it.
from other facilities. So you won't see anyone coming to drop off their car or to even have a conversation there. So there's no need for that. There may be some wayfinding signage in the future that may be necessary. We had talked about that, but that would be small, but you would never expect to see, I think, even a New Country sign
But
on
this is
the
not a
building.
commercial footprint where you have to worry that there's a large flow of outsiders. This is about being an internal building for the...
That's absolutely correct. I can tell you a little bit more about those use deals. I think I already distinguished it from the other facility, and as you just did too. It's not available to the public. Only New Country personnel will be here. There are 6 employees that are expected to be on site regularly, and it's open Monday through Saturday from 7:30 to 7 p.m. with earlier closing hours on Friday and Saturday, and the facility will be closed on Sunday, as are other New Country facilities. But even though this is not a customer destination, New Country's invested quite a bit in a high-quality site design, and I think that is to be consistent with the other properties that it's built and the reputation it has in town. So I do have, John Penny is here, I can speak to you a little bit about the building. You can see it's a concrete masonry building. I do have some samples if you're interested in the colors that are represented.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry, go
just
ahead.
clarify, there will never be any, like, trailer drop-off of vehicles at this site?
No,
No car
There
it'll
are
all
no-
be shuttled, cars will be driven individually to this site.
that's correct. And right now, the trailers that come in can potentially be parked on Meadow Street, and then the cars are taken from the trailer up here. But what we often see is that on the New England Avenue side, there is a break in the pavement. And that's often where you see the tractors bringing them up. And that's what they get through and considered not necessary or appropriate.
Okay. So the trailers will come to the existing site and the cars will be shuttled to this site? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Alessi has a couple.
Couple things. Is the building sprinkled?
The building is not sprinkled.
It is sprinkled.
It is not.
It is not.
It is not sprinkled. I know that there was a suggestion during the code enforcement,
Right.
since the type of work there is, there are no combustible materials, and think that it was a necessary improvement.
And if it was a condition of approval, would that be a problem?
That's our architect, John Penny speaking. It isn't required by code. We did have a conversation. I mean, the owner is not here. It's something that I would have to speak to them about. But during our conversations, and we did have an extensive conversation during the code compliance meeting, that since it was not required by code and there are no combustible materials on site, it was not something that was thought to be necessary, especially since there are also no members of the public.
Okay, and as far as installing the sidewalks, the curb and apron in New England, Avenue side that was brought up during with the police department? Is that something they're gonna be putting in?
Absolutely. In fact, I'd say that 99% of the code enforcement recommendations have been incorporated here. You can see here from the site plan that there is a sidewalk plan for the entirety of New England Avenue, stretching out all the way to the front of the
Would you just come up to the mic and introduce yourself?
This is Dan Tompkins from Environmental Design. Presently, the site plan is set up so a new sidewalk is proposed for Meadow Street, and new curbing for Meadow Street, because Meadow Street has no curbing. There actually is an existing asphalt sidewalk along New England, and, you know, basically after conversations with the client, they asked us to not propose new concrete curbing and sidewalk for New England because of cost. Costs have ramped up quite a bit on this project. There's rock removal involved, there's retaining walls involved, there's a lot of landscaping involved, and, you know, as everything, and then the stormwater management is all underground. So the costs are relatively high for this project. That was one decision that they asked us not to go into, since there's an existing asphalt sidewalk there anyway.
I could appreciate that, but you gotta understand something, the cost, we don't, that's...
I understand, I'm telling you the
Yeah,
rationale.
no, I understand,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the rationale for why
But
it's
if there was
not
a
on the
condition of
plan.
approval to put a 5-foot wide sidewalk around that street as well, would that be a problem?
That was picked up by the survey, so I have to assume the width is accurate.
Oh, yeah.
I think the policeman's issue, if I recall the code compliance discussion correctly, is that some folks are simply parking on the asphalt sidewalk. And they thought that, you know, it's not New Country people necessarily, we're talking about just anybody. So they thought that a new concrete sidewalk and curb would help that issue, but, you know, maybe also some regulatory signs is another idea.
Well, I mean, he's calling for a curb and apron and concrete sidewalks on New England Avenue.
He is.
Yeah.
I agree, but, you know, our client asked us not to show that, so I just want to make sure that you folks understand that as of right now, the site plan doesn't show that.
It doesn't show new right, but it does have a sidewalk there. And one thing that was asked specifically during code compliance and where the investment was sought to be made by the applicant is in the landscaping of New England Avenue. Closing that curb cut was very important to the town. And the landscaping plan includes roughly 90 new plantings, and there was an ornamental planting, sprinklings planned on New England Avenue. There were requests for additional street trees, so those were provided on this plan, and you can see there's quite a bit of landscaping and from the picture that I just passed around, and what you have, where there is none now. And that should also create an environment that would prohibit parking up on that sidewalk there.
Could I ask you a quick question about the trees?
Yes.
It's mentioned here in the code notes, number 3, push the trees back off the road, tree warden will work with you. Was there a discussion, does that discussion hold that they may have had some issue maybe with sight lines or something, I don't know, or?
They wanted to
or the
make sure
right-
that
right
there
away
were
was-
the additional 5 trees.
Right, those, right, the 5 trees.
So we didn't put those right here,
Here.
so that during the times of snow and maintenance, that they
Gotcha.
wouldn't conflict with any.
So that's been addressed, in other words, in your
That's been
discussions?
addressed on that plan, that's correct.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Yes.
In our packets, we had this handout, which looks like it's along New England Avenue. Is
Yes.
that the elevation?
That is.
So I'm just trying to have a better sense of how that'll interact with the neighborhood that way, I guess, because New England, yeah. So, actually, I hate to ask this, but can you kind of hold that black and white, and then show me what that is on the map next to it? So show me that, so that is that. Right.
If you were walking down the sidewalk, what this shows you.
So the,
See from New England Avenue.
and the lighter gray trees, circles, are essentially those 5 trees you were asked to add and things like that. Got it. Okay, I just want to make sure I understand.
That's why we are, one of the reasons we're here before you tonight, is because you can see here the way that it's graded. there's a significant amount of fill.
Yeah.
Your regulations call for 250 cubic yards as the standard, and when you exceed that, you need to come for an approval. And here we have roughly, I think it's 8,000, about 8,000 and change cubic yards of material that's going to be excavated. There's no fill that is going in here. The building will take the place of that. And Dan can certainly answer any questions that Dave, you have about that.
To that point, if I could, so engineering in point 2 talked about using a lot of the asphalt and gravel that is there now, but was put in without proposed drainage and so forth. And I mean, I understand the point. There are a lot of things that you're coming in and fixing. You've got new, underground detention and stormwater facilities. Just talk to me about that. Was there a lot of fill that was, on the lot that you had to deal with that wasn't supposed to be there, or what?
The way the calculations, I think, were first presented at the time of our code compliance meeting is that we used the runoff calculations on the existing site. There was a house there. There were areas, I think, that were paved over time, not necessarily by the current owner. New Country or Country Realty took the property in 2008. Prior to that, it was owned by Crabtree, who had come to you for another repair facility on the site when it was in the DID that was approved, and then that approval had lapsed. So there were certain parts of because it was being used for vehicle and inventory storage, I think there were parts of the site that had been paved and had done so haphazardly and without much thought. So what we had done, or what Dan and the engineers worked to do, and please feel free to add to this if I'm missing something, is to recalculate the site based on what was there, not what wasn't there. So it was to create a comparison that was accurate, as opposed to one that had been contemplated, that didn't take those improvements into consideration. All of our engineering materials were revised between the time of the code compliance meeting to honor that request between May and October when we made our first submission. And then most recently, we responded to further comments from engineering just last week. And those comments were accepted, and there is, I think, a letter in your packet that you had received from us last week, which shows an email from Laura Pooley accepting all of the engineering
Thank you.
revisions.
One more question, just about the security?
Commissioner Kennelly.
Thanks very much. Just real quick, off hour, obviously on hours, you're gonna have personnel there and everything else. How much in terms of like storage security, or could you walk me through what the storage security is, because it may become a bit of a magnet, those who might be attracted to, the valuable vehicles on site?
The site will receive new lighting, new security lighting that will remain on. This use requires 10 parking spaces by regulation, and 40 have been provided. Those will be used as inventory storage. How often those will be filled, I can't tell you. That's a need that will be. They're anticipating that, but right now you do see what is there. We do anticipate that it could be filled with vehicles at all times. I don't think that they plan to have security on site, but they will have security lighting.
So there will be security personnel?
No, I said I don't think there will be.
Security systems?
There will not be security personnel on site, but they will have security lighting on site. To prevent theft or nefarious behavior there. Also, the site will be gated. So you can see from this landscape plan, and in the evidence provided, there will be a gate that is a perimeter gate. And also, the driveway itself will be gated. So in the evening, to prevent...
It's a locked lot.
It's graded, it's a locked lot. So it will, that's the security measure that they're taking here. But it's a very rocky site, rocky topo and soil, so there will be extensive excavation.
What kind of fencing will be the gating?
It's an iron gate fence.
Thank you.
It's in the elevation.
Okay.
4-foot high wrought iron fence. At the entrance to the driveway, there will be a stone.
Could you put up the other elevation, the side view? I think it shows the fence up the whole side of the property. Leaning against the easel. There you go.
John Penny, Penny Design Group. It's going to be a painted aluminum fence. It's not going to be wrought iron.
Sorry, that's what the note says on the plan, so I stand corrected. A painted aluminum fence. The building location, the building is designed so that it's fully compliant with the underlying zoning regulation. Because of this being that location, the back wall of the building will serve as a retaining wall here. We did require a few variances, and we received those from the ZBA. To the extent that you're interested, I'm happy to run through those for you, but I know that I included a copy of that in your packet, and I think they speak for themselves. So we now have what is a fully compliant building, and the other regulations are also respective with terms to Section 24 and Section 27. We talked a little bit about the parking spaces. Mr. Galante's report, which you received in your packets as well, concludes that the use has little to no impact. As we mentioned, we have 6 employees, and those are going to be the cars shuttled. We aren't looking to attract new traffic to the site, but he is also here if you have any questions. His report looked out to the intersection, not just the intersection of Meadow and New England, but out to the intersection on Kings Highway as well. We talked about the loading, which occurs, which will no longer occur by way of tractor trailer, and all in all, we feel that we've been able to comply with most of the code compliance recommendations from the 531 memorandum. I think we'll end up with a much improved site, and we are all here to answer any further questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Francis?
Are those New Country's cars down at the end of Meadow Street too, in that lot?
Oh, I'm sorry, what lot?
When you drive past your site down Meadow Street, there's another whole lot filled with cars. Are those yours too?
Just state your name for the record.
If you mean going towards the Lexus service facility, there's like an upper level to the service site, and that would be their cars.
That's theirs?
That would be theirs.
Okay.
That's, as Meadow Street goes up the hill a little bit,
Yeah.
just before it takes a sharp bend.
Yes.
Yeah, they're definitely their cars.
Not yours.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Very good. Well, thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that wish to be heard on this item? I think all these people are being paid by you. All right, very good. So with that, I'll close the public hearing on this item, and I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.